Welcome. This is Dr. Emmett Miller. It's great to be here with you. Welcome. Now, one of my favorite stories is that one about Sherlock Holmes and Watson, who are out camping. Well, it's the middle of the night, and Sherlock nudges Watson awake and says, "Look up, Watson, and tell me what you see." And Watson replies, "I see stars, billions and billions of stars everywhere." And Sherlock says, "Well, what does that tell you?" So Watson says, "Well, astronomically, that tells me that there are millions and billions of galaxies and planets. Teleologically, it tells me that God is great and that we are small and insignificant. Meteorologically, it tells me that we'll probably have a fair day tomorrow." Why? Well, what does it tell you, Sherlock? And Sherlock replies, "Elementary, my dear Watson. Someone stole our tent." For more than half a century, I've been trying to be able to find that tent. Instead of trying to learn all I could about one disease or area of specialization, as most physicians do these days, I've been focusing my attention on trying to discover the most fundamental cause of human disease: illness, unhappiness, failure, climate change, war, and global annihilation, and what we could do to remedy it. One of the most important outcomes of this study is my awareness of the supreme importance of our relationships to all those factors, individual and collective. So today I want to focus on some of the practical things I have discovered that every one of us can do to improve our relationships and our communication within those relationships. In our last session, we discussed Dr. Waldinger's Harvard study of adult development. Dr. Waldinger is a professor at Harvard University. And this study began back in 1938 when they began to study 268 Harvard sophomores. They hoped that doing a longitudinal study would reveal clues that lead to healthy and happy lives. And now, 80 years later, this is one of the world's longest studies of adult life. And by the way, they also expanded their research to include the offspring of these men, because in Harvard, they were all men, of course, back at that time. But now their offsprings, who now number 1,300, and the offsprings, are now in their 50s and 60s. And the whole idea there was to figure out how early life experiences affect health and aging over time. Well, the surprising finding was that our relationships and how happy we are in our relationships has a powerful influence on our health. Taking care of our body is important, but tending to your relationships is a form of self-care too. And it's a very important one. That, I think, Dr. Waldinger said, is the revelation. Several studies also found that people's level of satisfaction with their relationships when they're 50 years old was a better predictor of their physical health than their cholesterol levels were when they were examined 5 or 10 years later. Those people who were most satisfied in their relationships at age 50 turn out, guess what, to be the healthiest group at age 80. So I want to invite you to check out Dr. Waldinger's TED Talk, which is entitled "What Makes a Good Life? Lessons from the Longest Study on Happiness." Another study showed that marital satisfaction has a protective effect on mental health. Those who had happy marriages in their 80s reported their moods didn't suffer, even on the days when they had more physical pain. Those who had unhappy marriages felt more emotional and physical pain on a daily basis. When you get to the 80s, you'll understand what that means. Well, we talk about healthy relationships. So what do we mean by healthy relationships? Well, healthy relationships are characterized by feelings of safety, mutual respect, appreciation, acknowledgement, responsiveness, generosity, honesty, and loyalty. And in those relationships, we see a balance, we see fairness, we see harmony, and we see love. So, of what value is this kind of relationship? Well, as we've mentioned, it's your relationship is the highest predictor of physical illness, happiness, longevity. UNC at Chapel Hill pulled data from 148 different studies, including more than 300,000 men and women. Those with poor social connections had, on the average, 50% higher odds of death within the next 7.5 years. You get that? Poor social connection predicts 50% more likely that you will die in the next 7.5 years. Ouch. And as Dr. Waldinger says, loneliness kills. It's as powerful as smoking or alcoholism in predicting whether or not you're going to die. There's an old story I like to tell you. It's about a rabbi and a priest. They lived in the same little town, and they used to visit each other every week or so. And they would sit and for a couple hours have a glass of wine and chat, maybe smoke their pipes. That's kind of an old story. And they really enjoyed this. One day, the priest said to the rabbi, he says, you know, one thing I don't understand in the Old Testament, you know, being Jewish, you read the Old Testament too. Can you explain to me why it is in the very beginning in Genesis, it said that in the beginning, God created, you know, earth, and he saw it was good, and he created water, and he saw that was good, and he created plants, and he thought that was good, created animals, and he said that was good. And it says he created man, but it doesn't say good. Why is that? And the rabbi says, well, I'm glad you're asking this question. He says, you know, the Bible was, of course, originally written in Hebrew. And the word that is translated as good is tov, as in mazel tov. But what that word means is complete. And so what that means in the Bible is that the water was complete when it was created. The plant world was complete. Animals are complete. But the human being alone is not complete. It is only when we have formed relationships with other human beings that we are complete. Evolution, of course, built us to be a part of a sizable group of people. We needed that for survival. 1 or 2 human beings living in prehistoric time. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to live. And you certainly can't reproduce. Neither can a couple. When you need a group of people, you've got to fight off the lions, you've got to search for food, you've got to hunt, somebody has to stay home and watch the kids, it's got to be somebody guarding against the cannibals that live next door. So we're designed to live in a large community. That's one of the reasons we have these big brains. We're really designed to have good, close relationships with somewhere between 50 and 150 people, which are incredibly complex, because it's not only your relation with each of these 150 people, but the relationship between every pair of those that you need to know, you know, to a certain degree in order to operate within cultures. That's why we have a big brain, so we can accomplish all that. Animals who don't need to deal with so many relationships, they get to have a smaller brain. And so, but unfortunately, we are ruled by negative thinking, old paradigm thinking in this world. So instead of looking for how can I have a close relationship with you, it is, what can I do you for? Ah, he's a rat. She's a communist. Ah, he's a Nazi. Or worse, he's a liberal, or she's a Trumper. And what we need to realize is that every moment of every day, there are hundreds of thousands of highly trained scientists busy figuring out how to make us more frightened, more nervous about the war, frightened about climate change, about conspiracies, like the Democrats that eat human babies, about your expanding waistline, your possibly malignant breast lump, about your wife that's for some reason no longer excited about you, about your too short manhood, all designed to trigger fear, anger, and anxiety within you. That's the goal. All day long, we're being bombarded with those messages. Why? Because that's how products are sold to us. Once you're thrown into fear, a reaction by the unconscious mind, the monkey mind, then there's a deep inner searching for something to give some kind of peace. Well, then they say, our product is going to give you the peace. And that's how they sell products or candidates or ideology, whatever they may be selling. Presto, another sale. These are the folks who are driving our beliefs, negative and divisive, not the loving elders we were designed to follow, right? A true human community is led by the older, the elders, the ones who've seen it all before. And people listen to them because that enables them to make the right choices. But our kids are trained to resist us and to go off on their own TikTok paths and not pay attention with what we say, because they are receiving guidance not from those wise elders, but by those people who are the newscasters and the advertisers, the internet and the social media, who don't give a damn about us individually, much less love us. They're programming us to carry out the behaviors that enrich their lives, not ours. This is Maslow's pyramid of needs, just to remind you of that. What he pointed out is that there are certain basic needs. If you don't get those covered, then that's all your energy is going to go there. Those are the physiological needs: breathing, food, water, sex, sleep, homeostasis, and excretion. We really suffer if we're not dealing with those in our lives. You can't think about anything else. But once those basics are covered, we look for safety needs, security of the body, security of employment, of resources, of morality, of the family, health, and property. And we're talking about relationships there. That's how basic this is, right above the very physiological needs. And then once we've got that covered, then come our needs for love and belonging, friendship, family, sexual intimacy. Then once those are covered, we go on and we look to achieve our self-esteem needs, confidence, achievement, respect of others. And then finally, what he calls self-actualization, morality, creativity, spontaneity, problem solving, a lack of prejudice, and acceptance of truth and facts to guide our lives. So in our last session, we talked about there being two different ways to approach the challenges in our lives. For instance, if we're driving along and the road we want to cross is blocked, we have a challenge. Or maybe the boss sends a memo that says, step into my office immediately. Or we walk into a party that's filled with people of another race or culture. Maybe they're all black, or maybe they're all white, or maybe they're all Muslim or half of them. That's a challenge. Or you hear of another mass shooting and so forth. Every one of these is a challenge in our lives. How do we approach it? The one way to approach it is what I call the old paradigm. It's based upon analysis, breaking into pieces, comparing, analyzing. The other way is the holistic way of approaching things, looking for holes, seeking connections, holes with a W, looking at things with an eye towards seeing what is good, what is functioning well. And that first way of looking at it, the old paradigm, I often say that that's associated with violence. It's about defensiveness, as you will see. And the other one is associated with connection, with the merge, the urge to merge, or what I call love with a capital L. And we discussed a bit of the paradigm shift that I think it's crucial that we make if we're going to survive. As some of you may know, the allegory of Plato's cave, in which we are chained to a wall and we can't see what's going on in reality. All we see is the shadows of reality being reflected on that wall. I mean, you can see this most clearly in totalitarian cultures. Like, let's say, if you take the Russian culture, you can't use the word war for this conflagration that has been killing millions of people right next door in Ukraine. If you use the word war, you go to jail. That's it. So you're not seeing reality. You're seeing what is allowed through on Russian media. Same thing in China. I mean, you can't use the word Taiwan. You go to jail for that. I mean, these are like details, but in a massive way, the point is that you only see a small amount of what's out there. Then I noticed that all the newspapers are all abuzz about Rudolph, about Murdoch talking about the fact that he knew that that the presenters on his Fox network were ignoring the truth about the elections, but on Fox News, you don't see anything at all about it, right? So but in general, this is how it is. We don't see reality. We only see these images that are projected on the wall. And one of the points and goals in life is to turn around and see what's real instead of, and in our culture, so much of we look at is on a screen. It's a TV screen, or it's a computer screen, or it's a cell phone screen. And if you want to see what that screen is telling us, kind of look at the effect of TikTok on kids. I mean, the studies are absolutely shocking. And so, I mean, and after all, kids are, looking at what's on Instagram. Well, what are these girls doing? Perhaps they're reading a very embarrassing story that someone has posted about one of their classmates, or one of them, or this woman looking at her cell phone, and maybe her ex-husband is using revenge porn to punish her, or a guy looking at it, maybe he's reading what someone has written about Democratic congressmen participating in rituals where they're cannibalizing young children. Maybe he'll go out and buy a gun. Maybe he'll even make the newspapers tomorrow. Maybe these beautiful ones are creating a selfie that's going to cause thousands of young women to hate their bodies because they don't look as beautiful as these models do. We're continuously being exposed to negative modes of thinking that I've described as being violent in their essence. That is, we've been taught to see the world with anger, anxiety, suspicion, frustration, resentment, helplessness, and so forth. envy and greed, perspectives that make us vulnerable to the manipulative forms of propaganda that are aimed at us in the psychological slavery that has developed. These are old paradigm modes of thought, and we end up thinking that way. And this kind of thinking is characterized by being analytical. It's either or, black or white, differentiating good or bad. It's fragmenting, exclusive, use of critical judgment. It's contemptuous, it's rejecting, it's debating, it's attacking. You get the idea? It's like in school, you were told, look at these two systems, compare and contrast, right? That's what we're talking about. As opposed to the other way of looking, which is unifying. It's inclusive. It's the energy of love. It's the energy that brings things together, as opposed to what I call the energy, the dark force, which is analytical, either or, differentiating, fragmenting, disrespecting, othering, rejecting. And what I've proposed as a pathway to healing is nothing less than a paradigm shift. Yes, sometimes we need to be analytical about things. And you need to use old paradigm thinking. If you suddenly look up and find a Mack truck has gone out of control and is headed toward you, yes, use old paradigm thinking. Bad. Over there on the sidewalk, good. You raise your blood pressure, pump as much blood through your body, run as fast as you can to get out of the way. You're not going to ask what's the race of the person driving the truck. You're not going to try to enjoy the spectacular way the truck is painted, fantastic color. No. So sometimes we need to be analytical in that way, but sometimes we need to look primarily at the world through the eyes of love with a capital L, which means not just intimate love or something like that, but love meaning the urge to merge, the tendency to be whole, to have shared values, integration, inclusiveness, both and perspective on the world, caring, intimacy, balance, harmony, compassion, wholeness, collective intelligence. And that's what I'm meaning when I talk about the paradigm shift. There should be a key on your mental keyboard that says paradigm shift. So love with a capital L, the urge to be together. Well, infants they're formed by the urge to be together, but when they're born, the human spirit seeks love the same way that a newborn plant puts out leaves and they seek the sun. If they have the sun, they're able to grow to their potential. But if they're too much in the shade, they won't grow to their potential. They'll be twisted and gnarled instead of beautiful. And the same thing with a child. If a child gets that love, then that child can grow to its potential. But to the degree that it is, that love is interfered with, particularly in that first year or two, like I said, human beings are actually premature and they should be as comfortable during that first year or so as they were in the womb. And mostly every mother knows that, yeah. And that sense of love and togetherness and merging, as I said, I believe we can trace it from the carbon atoms, that instead of their forming bipolar entities like fluorine taking an electron away from a sodium atom, and that leaves the sodium atom having a positive charge and the chlorine having a negative charge. That's polar. That's not sharing. They go off on their own, but this sharing of electrons binds these two carbon atoms together. The same force bonds together the individual cells that eventually evolved. And what bound those little individual cells together led to differentiation and more complex animals, all those cells and organs being held together by a common person, higher and higher animals all the way up to the human being and how graceful and incredible a human being can be, and the connection between lovers and parents and children, the same kind of connection that we see that draws animals together. So I'm calling all of these forms of love with a capital L because they are about cohesion and wholeness, a holistic way of looking at things. In other words, what I was saying is that love and healing and life are actually the same thing. We've covered that in some of the other webinars, which are still available for you to watch free. To mention, the new paradigm is not, to repeat, is not just adopting a Pollyanna, Anne of Green Gables attitude toward the world, but the people operating out of the old paradigm, they simply don't look for love, spend very little time trying to see how they can connect with this new person or this new idea. But the new paradigm doesn't mean you only see things according to that capital L, love, but you begin with that before you begin to look for differences. Because once you start seeing the differences, you begin to invite polarization and negative biases, such as confirmation bias, and then you won't be able to see the wholeness. So any situation that is not threatening your life, you're not being threatened with death within the next 5 seconds, relax, because only when you can relax that you can access your ability to see love. And once you've seen the holes and your connections that are there, then you can see the differences and see how they work together. This is a theory that I revealed for the first time in my book, Our Culture on the Couch, 7 Steps to Global Healing, back in 2009. My goal was to change minds, enough minds to get enough people to realize how important it was to use the new paradigm, to be able to see the good in people, the good in the world, to see what is working and strengthen what is positive, instead of the rather defeatist point of view of seeing what's going wrong and finding something or someone to attack about it. I've described many times how mainstream medicine has failed us in our health because it uses only the old paradigm. It looks at the symptoms rather than the whole person and the true source of the illness in far more cases than anything else. And unfortunately, as I feared, as I mentioned within that book that I hurriedly got to the press in the hopes of turning around the world, which didn't quite make the dent in the universe I'd wanted, because things have gotten exponentially worse since then. The book's still available. You can find that at drmiller.com. But here we are, we've had this pandemic caused social isolation, keeping us separated. We've been masked so that we can't even share our emotions when we're physically in the same place. It's incessant television and internet propaganda, Russian trolls, Chinese spy balloons, and violence against children on a local basis. In 2021, nearly 60% of high school girls are experiencing persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness. A quarter of them have actually made a suicide plan. There's been an incredibly rise in mental illness since 2012. The Youth Risk Behavior Survey's finding was that 14% of high school girls say they have been forced to have sex. I don't know how many of their parents have any idea about that or how many times it's happened, but 14%. And nearly 1/5 have experienced sexual violence within the last year. And perhaps the depression these girls have is but a natural reaction to the brutally misogynistic culture that we've created. In the midst of all this violence and dehumanization, their depression is actually very reasonable. Studies showing that the introduction of Facebook in colleges had a negative impact on student mental health because it encouraged unfavorable social comparisons. It was a carefully done study back in 2022. Just amazing. Uh, so we've become accustomed to our 50% divorce rate. We're accustomed to mass shootings in our grade school. We're accustomed to things like the January 6th assault on the Capitol, to the disrespect that our Congress people show to each other. These are supposed to be our leaders, right? Teaching us love. I don't see that that's happening. So our failure to look at the world through love is leading to all of our problems. And I've showed how this produces our physical problems. I've shown how it produces mental and emotional problems. And now we're talking about relationship. So instead of just speaking in an academic way, yeah, I use studies and so forth because I'm a scientist, but I don't believe in being a scientist that doesn't look at the whole picture. I've been fortunate in that the world allowed me to do what I wanted to do and to seek what I wanted to seek, and has given me the tools and the power and the intelligence to do so. And I'm so grateful. So let us have an experience now. Allow your body to be in a comfortable position. Become aware there's no other place that you need to be at this moment in time. There's nothing else that you have to be doing. And there's no problem that you have to solve at this moment in time. You can give yourself permission to relax deeply and thoroughly. That's it. Take a deep breath in and let it out. As you do, let it be a feeling of letting go completely. Simply releasing. Simply releasing. Allow your eyelids to relax. If you're more comfortable with your eyelids being open, you can allow them to be open. Peaceably and comfortably open, or let them close. And when they fall closed, let them be so relaxed that they don't want to open. And when you have that feeling of relaxation in your eyelids, gently test them and send that feeling of relaxation flowing throughout all the other organs of your body. Peaceful, calm. Feel the relaxation from your eyelids flow into your forehead and into your scalp. Through all the muscles of your body. Through the muscles of your face, through your neck, through your forehead, your scalp, your face and neck and shoulders and arms, all the way down through your beautiful body, all the way down through your legs and your knees, all the way down through your beautiful feet, right out through the tips of your toes. Good. And take a deep breath in. As you let it out again, letting it be a feeling of letting go completely, releasing and letting go completely. And with each breath out, let it be a feeling of releasing. Let the air breathe you. And as you're breathing in, let yourself be aware. I'm breathing in. With each breath out, allow yourself to be aware. I'm breathing out. And after each breath out, you'll notice there's a little pause before the next breath comes in. Let yourself sink down deeply into that pause. It's the quietest time of all for all your mind and body. And then let the breath breathe you. Let each breath enter all by itself. Each breath beginning from a little spark of life deep within you. And as you're aware of the breath and the breathing, you notice unnecessary thoughts come along. Those thoughts are being demonstrated, produced, and offered to you by this ancient part of your mind, the paleocortex, the monkey mind that evolved 100,000 years ago or more. It doesn't understand how safe you are right now, at this moment in time. But you know that you're safe, and allow yourself to know it. Now, and right now is the only moment that exists, and the only one that you need to be concerned with at all. And in this moment, breathing in, and in this moment, breathing out, feeling presence, feeling an appreciation for each breath that cleanses you and brings you energy and life. And as each new breath starts itself, feel that spark of energy that starts that new breath in. And realize that no matter how deeply relaxed you become during that pause, that little spark of energy, that spark of life and of light starts each new breath in. And try to feel each new breath as being fresh and new and different. That breath has never happened before. Each breath, imagine each breath is your very first breath. Each moment is the very first moment. Each breath is a miracle. Each moment is a miracle. Breathing in life and light. Breathing in love. It is love. Imagine it is love that starts each new breath. It is love that created all that you are, all that you know, all that you have. Love stretching back through time. Feel it in each new breath, that love that you are, that love that you feel. And as you think about the people in your life that you love, think how deeply you can love them, how deeply you are willing to let yourself love them. Bring those that you love to your mind at this moment. Bring them to your heart spiritually. And honor that love and feel gratitude for that love and that love that starts each new breath flowing into you like a golden river of light, a golden river of light. Notice where that river of light enters your body, probably in your chest, maybe near your heart, breathing that golden light, love, flowing into your heart, and let it flow throughout all the rest of your body with each breath, healing and balancing, soothing, surrounding you like a golden glow, being held in the loving, pure, loving arms of that spirit that flows through all things, that higher being, that power that has created all this beauty and all this love. And that's what you're here for. Good. That loving message of beauty reflects to you the love that you are inside. And to know that there's a little one within you that needs to feel that love and that acceptance. That tiny little being inside you that needs to feel this love too, curled up inside that X chromosome. Imagine you can see her and hold her, love her, and let her know that the confusion in the world, the lack of love around or seeming lack of love is not her fault, is not her burden to carry. She is here to feel the pure love. Let her feel it. And let her know that she needs feel no guilt. She is forgiven. No shame. She is pure and whole. And hold her and let her cry. Let her cry all her tears. Let her deeply grieve her losses so that she can now be free. Sense the spaciousness of this freedom. Yes. You are an unlimited being. So let that little one deep inside you feel whole and healthy. You have joy in your heart. Return to that joy, to that love. And it's important to come back again and again to this deeper place, wherever that might be for you, that special place. Travel to that mountaintop or that sacred valley or that beautiful stream or that ocean side. Take yourself to that place where you can feel the spirit that moves through all things, that great spirit, that love. And give yourself that trigger that allows you to once again embody the beauty within you. Let yourself be in that scene and enjoy the shapes and colors and movements around you in this beautiful place. And touch within you all the times that remind you of the love that you are and the love that you are here to bring forth into the world. Feel your willingness to do that. Feel your willingness to quiet those ancient parts of your mind that are always there to protect you whenever there is actually an immediate physical danger. Yet allowing yourself to relax and see the deeper challenges that your higher mind can see. There are challenges in the world, but you like challenges. Challenges are a turn on to your spirit. So as you go forth, go for it. Some challenges you have to kind of let go of. No time for that one. Well, I don't have the tools for that challenge right now. We'll let that one go for now. That one's not my job. Instead, find those encounters that are your true challenges, because those challenges are opportunities for you to use all of that love power that is inside of you and put it to work. That's it. Allow yourself to see those true challenges for you. And know deep within you came here for a purpose. Let yourself begin to guess what that purpose or mission is that brings you to this planet. Imagine that you now can know that purpose. Let yourself be open to discovery. Let yourself be willing to sweep away the cobwebs of the past, to be here in this moment as breath follows breath. Like the waves of the ocean, wave follows wave. Open yourself to each new breath. Open yourself to each new moment being born. Caress it gently. See what it has to tell you. There are joys all around you, love all around you, opportunities all around you. And as you discover more and more what you're here to do, how you are to express your love with a capital L through the talents you have, the gifts you have, know what those gifts are. Allow yourself to know what your talents and gifts are. Allow yourself to know the skills that you've learned and mastered up until now, to know the gifts that are all around you, and feel deep gratitude. And give yourself permission to be the person you came here to be now. Good. And take some time here in this special place to tune into your wisdom, to your spirit guide, to that higher part of you that connects you to the spirit that flows through all things, that deeper sense of a higher being, a higher power, and open to receive whatever's there for you. Open to love, permission to be patient, permission to discover the ways you have been wrong and misled, infinitely forgiving, and reorienting yourself to your true life's purpose. Feel connection to the millions of others doing this right now at this moment, and make a commitment to repeat again and then, again, that which nurtures this wisdom, this knowing, this being, this gratitude. And when you're ready, holding this love very gently within like a newborn babe, carry it with you until whatever you do next, carry it with you through whatever you choose to do next. Coming back to being fully wide awake, but only when you're ready. Good. Coming all the way back. Allowing yourself to be completely wide awake and present. Good. And let me share with you some of the things that you might choose to do as you go forth. As I say, I've been spending the last 50 years producing these products to make available to you incredibly inexpensively compared to a MRI. Many MRIs are obviated. They don't have to take place because people heal themselves inexpensively. Go to shop.drmiller.com. Check out Love Meditation. It will help you go deeper into that experience you just had. For a sexual love, look at sexual intimacy. It's designed to reawaken those deeper feelings of love in that format. Of course, you can buy a copy of Our Culture on the Couch there, or you can download a copy, or you can listen to an audio copy of Our Culture on the Couch. They're all available at shop.drmiller.com. Wonderful video. There's 2 DVDs. It's called Heal Your Relationships. It's very relevant to what we talked about today. And fortunately, you can still go to Amazon on your television and watch Live Life, so you can see what these perspectives do in the lives of real people telling their real stories. You don't want to miss this one. You can either look at the whole movie or you can look at just one episode at a time. It's a jaw-dropping movie you don't want to miss. And so you can find that by going to drmiller.com/livelife. And it will, when you go there, it'll show you how exactly to get to see this fabulous movie. I am awakening self-acceptance is a very basic tool for being able to do all the things we're talking about here. And let me remind you, those of you who've been wondering, gosh, how can I make a donation so as to keep this information coming? Uh, Here's how. Send a check to Emmett Miller, Post Office Box 803, Nevada City, California 95959. Or you can go to PayPal and send to accounting@drmiller.com, whatever amount you'd like to share. Or you can go to the website shop.drmiller.com/donate. Good. I want to talk about a couple of specific things that you can do to change your relationships. And I want to talk about something I learned back in the 1970s that has proven to be incredibly valuable for a very long period of time, very, very often. This has really been wonderful. And it's called the SAD technique. Yeah, what that's about is that often we feel hurt, or we feel insulted, or we feel judged by somebody else, and there's an insult within that insult takes three. We react to it when we feel attacked or insulted. There are three ways, and they're called S, A, and D. The S stands for sullen silence. That's the silent treatment, which is like the cold shoulder, a shunning, which is a really painful thing to do. It doesn't help a relationship continue. It's punitive and it's punishing. And you punish donkeys, mules, but you know what? Even if you are training your dog, you might punish it, but dog trainers now say you should no longer roll up a newspaper and whack your dog with it. They're too sensitive for that. You can be positive. And the same thing about human being. We want to avoid that sullen silence because it doesn't deal with connecting people at the level where they need to be connected. The second thing that people do is called attack, and that's the A. And that A is blaming, judging, criticizing, shaming, or shoulda, woulda, coulda reactions. But when you attack someone who loves or cares about you, or even just likes you, they're very likely to feel hurt. And this invariably causes them to react with defense, in which they're not hearing your feeling, but just defending themselves, or anger as they fight back, or else they withdraw, give you the cold shoulder, or they simply placate you, and then neither of you are dealing with your feelings, because there's no conversation about feelings, which are at the essence of the problem. Communication is not served, and the problem tends to get worse. Well, take a moment, think about anger. Why do we get angry at something? Anger is an emotion that's been put there by nature for a very good reason. The role of anger in life is to help each person protect themselves from danger that's out there. So if someone's trying to break into my house, or if I need to push a big boulder out of the way so I can drive further down the road, I need that kind of energy. I'm unconcerned about the feelings of the boulder or someone else that I'm angry with. But if I treat you in that way, I'm pushing you away, not pushing you to where I really want you to go. The D stands for denial. That's the Uncle Tom approach to life. Oh, well, that's okay that you smashed up the fender on my car. Oh, it's an old car anyway. Or it's fine you didn't invite me to the party. I found some other things to do that night. But inside, it's decidedly not okay. You feel hurt. You feel abandoned. You feel insulted or devastated or furious. But you hide your feelings and put on a happy face. Hi, it's me, Uncle Tom. Well, that denial may be something you're doing consciously, intentionally, or it may be automatic and unconscious because you've been doing it so many times. You may know, but this person's done this thing many times and knows that it hurts you, but still you choose to not say anything. Okay. But this is not very useful because you are hurt inside. And again, you're not telling the person what's happening, what the real issue is, just as in S&D. So beyond the SAD ways of approaching things, there's a 5-step response I want you to know about. Step 1, okay, this is when you've experienced some upset or distress at the way you've been treated or spoken to, or whatever it is. But before communicating your experience to your partner in this communication, I'm going to call your partner, before that, it's important, extremely important, to be as clear as possible about what your true feelings are. So stop. Don't do anything. Stop and relax for a moment. Maybe take a breath. If you're very upset, then you might actually do a little induction, go to a place of peace, a little meditation. You may need to excuse yourself for a moment to get settled. Focus your awareness within and realize you're feeling an emotion. And allow yourself to identify the quality of that feeling. Find a word that best describes your emotion. Truly, honestly. Sadness, fear, hurt, helplessness, confused, tense, lonely. What are you feeling? And don't stop at anger, because that puts you back in the sad framework. There's something deeper than anger. Usually it's a kind of fear or anxiety or desperation. So find that feeling, whatever it is. Mad, sad, glad, and scared are the 4 most basic emotions. If you can't think of any, you can go to there. But as I say, don't choose the mad. So now you have a word. Then try saying something like, my first reaction was anger. Then I realized it was because I felt so hurt, frightened, or sad. Number 2, now you know what you feel. Now you need to communicate to your partner. Up till now, you've said nothing. And so first, you want to identify in your mind, what is the event that happened in the world that triggered those feelings? What was the sentence your partner said? What was the physical action that they did? What was the word that they used? Whatever it was, what triggered that feeling? You can find it. It's there. And it's very important, because this next thing you do should be 2/3 of what you're communicating to the person, the communication of your true feeling. And so what you do is identify to your partner what that trigger was. Describe to them what happened without interpretation, without dramatization, as if you were simply a camera. For instance, when you said I was no good, or when you said you didn't care, or when you turned your back and walked away, or when you threw that telephone through the plate glass window, whatever it might be, just simply when you did that, this is the beginning of a sentence. And then the rest of it is going to be what you felt. So when you treated me insensitively, well, you shouldn't say that. You shouldn't say when you ignored me. You shouldn't say when you acted as if I was a stranger, because those are actually blames. You're not talking about your feeling. So we want to go to your true feeling so that you can say, I felt. So that's what step 3 is when you say to that person, when you didn't show up at 7 when you said you would, I felt lonely, or I felt abandoned, I felt hurt deep inside, or I felt sick, or I felt like my energies just drained away, or I felt really frightened. Yeah. And the next step is you want to tell them what thinking led you to feel that way, and ask them to not interfere until you finish your entire statement. So when you didn't show up at 7, I felt really lonely because I began to think that maybe you really don't care about being there for me, that you really don't enjoy our dinners together, or that you were with your ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever it might be. That's what my thought was. Now, I'm not saying that's true, but that's what my thought was. And it was that thought in my mind, of course, that triggered the feeling that came when you did what you did. Now, you don't say all of that. You just say that when you weren't here at 7 o'clock, I felt lonely because I began to think that you were with your ex. That's the whole thing. But according to these rules now, when you tell a person what you've honestly felt, instead of acting angry or punitive, it's very disarming, because you're saying, I'm going to be vulnerable with you. Now, if this is a person you can't be vulnerable with, then, you probably shouldn't be trying to have a close relationship with them, or even a friendly relationship beyond a certain point. So they now are open to hearing what you're saying. And now you're taking responsibility by saying what your thoughts were. So when you called me clumsy, I felt really hurt inside, because it reminded me of when they used to call me clumsy and doofus when I was in middle school. Right? So you're taking responsibility. It was my thought that caused that. And then the next step, then finally, as you say, to the other person, is that what was going on for you? And say, because I had the thought that because I got teased in middle school and now you were picking on me the same way, or it felt as if you were out to try and hurt me, whatever it is. And then you say to them, is that true for you? Is that where you were coming from? Is that where you were coming from? And if not, can you tell me where you were coming from? What were you thinking when you did that, or when you said that? Because I want to understand what was going on for you, what you felt, and what you were intending. And now, if you're the person on the receiving end of that kind of communication, the most important thing for you to do is, when you hear your partner's feeling, say to your partner, I hear you. I get what you're feeling. I'm really sorry at your having had those feelings at that point. I'm really sorry that what I did or said triggered those feelings for you. And you're telling them in a sincere way, I'm sincerely sorry about that. I care about you. That's what it's important to get across, because the communication's got to be built on that kind of sharing and loving. And then you say, either to the person, you're exactly right, that's exactly why I did it or why I said that. But then now you can have communication about it. Or you can say, no, the reason I wasn't here at 7 o'clock is because I had a flat tire and I couldn't get the wheel off and my cell phone wasn't charged and I couldn't call you, whatever. They get a chance then to tell you what was happening for them. But now you've released your feelings. And so you're not inside waiting to, you're just open, say, okay, tell me, I'm open to hearing, and I'm open to hearing if in fact what you did was honest and there was nothing evil. And I'm ready to forgive you. And all I want you to do is to tell me the truth about yourself. So if you can remember these steps to pause, be clear about what you feel at the deepest level. Number 2 is communicate that feeling as part of the sentence. When you did so-and-so, whatever triggered your feeling, when you did so-and-so, I felt so-and-so, right? So you needed to know 2 things, what your feeling was and what was the behavior that triggered that feeling. And then finally, and this is a tricky one, is take responsibility for the thought that you had. They didn't make you feel bad. Nobody can make you feel bad. Nobody can make you feel scared. Well, yeah, I can with a knife or a hatchet, but no. In a social setting, we don't make anybody feel anything. If you feel it, you're feeling it because of what your thoughts were. Your thoughts may be correct or they may not be. And if they're not correct, then the feeling that you're having may be an entirely inappropriate feeling to what the true goings on are out there. And the final step is, I'm wondering what was going on for you. Is this my thoughts? Do they reflect what was happening for you at that time or not? That's it. Get to know your feeling and get to know the trigger for those feelings. Tell your partner, when you trigger, I felt feeling, because it seemed to me, because I was thinking, now I share what I thought, that when that trigger happened, what it triggered in my thinking that triggered my emotions. And I want to know if, in fact, my thought about that represents reality from your point of view. Okay. There you got a lot to practice there. We'll go with that. I think I'll do a part 3 of relationships, because there's obviously a few other things that I think will be really, really valuable. Thanks a lot for being here. And of course, very happy to receive donations that you send our way. And you can do that at shop.drmiller.com/donate. So be well and namaste.